months ago, I re-met someone I used to work with 30 years ago, John, M0J. Oh, that was it. Yeah. And we found we had a common interest in high altitude ballooning. This is an old-fashioned presentation on the screen. Blue tack and some bits of paper. So, what's high altitude ballooning? It's, if you already know, just talk amongst yourselves. A payload with a parachute and not here, a helium balloon on top of it. And the idea is you let that go and it goes up to a certain altitude. The balloon bursts because as it goes up it expands to the point where it can't take it anymore. And then the whole lot falls back down to Earth and you go and pick it up, in theory. So the payload generally contains various things. A processor, in this case an Arduino, GPS unit, and a transmitter. The transmitters, the ones used are mainly very low power, 10 milliwatts. Because it's airborne, you can't use your license in this country. But on 434 megahertz, keep it below 10 milliwatts, it's license free. And that's sending out RTTY signal, which basically is the information that has been gathered from the GPS unit on there. Plus, there's also on this one, there's some temperature sensors as well. I'll turn that off. Okay, so why do it? Because it's interesting. It's an interesting hobby. You get to play with lots of stuff. My main reason for wanting to do it is to take a picture like that. I didn't take that one. So that's probably taken from something like 32,000 meters. So well up into the stratosphere. And it's not too difficult to get up there. John and I are ready, almost ready for our first flight. We're not expecting to get that high. We'll probably get to just over 10 with this lot and a relatively small balloon. In some future balloon, we're going to send up a camera and hopefully retrieve it. So the target camera is one of these things, which you can buy from China for about 10 quid. And that is a complete camcorder. You just stick in a micro SD card. It claims to work at full HD, but I don't think the image quality is any better than it is when it's recording half HD 720p. So if you take one of those apart, you can dig out of it a tiny little board like that with the whole thing's on one board. And it's very light. Just needs a power pack, which you can 5 volts or these are actually charged. They have a lithium battery internally, but take that off. So that's a future extension to this. Okay, how do you find it? Well, you don't have to track it all by yourself, which is handy. There's a whole community out there of people who will listen out. As long as you publish what you're going to do, they'll listen out for it, and using... Okay, no, I'll show you that first. That's a sentence. Ooh. That's typically the sort of data that you transmit from the unit. A call sign, a record number, time, latitude, longitude, altitude. You may then have other fields in there with temperature, anything else, and then a checksum at the end. And lots of nice kind people will be listening to this and running the signal through a modified version of FLDigi. I guess some people will know of FLDigi. Well, this particular version, called DLFLDigi, downloads the results from the data that's picked up to a website called HabHub, which will take the data and as long as you pre-registered your flight with it, will plot its position on a Google map and give information about your flight here. So current location, maximum altitude, current altitude, etc. And you get a nice profile. You can see some here if you come and look afterwards, those who can't see. You tend to get a gradual rise as it goes up higher, and then a sharper descent as it falls. Fine. That's about it. The only time you really, in the chase car, where you're going to find it, you really need internet access so that you can follow this. But there'll come a point at which all the listeners don't pick it up down below a few thousand meters on the way back down, so then you need to resort to things like this, and hopefully you find it. People seem to usually find it, I believe.
What frequency is it on?
434 megahertz. Yeah.
What about helium?
Helium, yes.
Where do you get it and how much is
Oh,
it?
where do you get it?
Balloons.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not quite pure. It's 97% helium is the stuff to buy. All the big gas suppliers provide it. Air Products is the one I think that I'm registered with. I haven't bought any yet. The one I'll be buying is a cylinder. It weighs about 25 kilos, so it's a bit heavy, but that's got 5 cubic meters of helium in it, around 100 quid. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you know the diameter as it goes up?
Well, the balloon manufacturers publish a burst diameter. Yeah. Yeah. So the first one we send up will be one that bursts at theoretically 1.85 meters, I believe. So we won't have everything hanging on such long strings. We'll make it as compact as possible so we can avoid going through the hassle of getting permission.
How far do they normally travel horizontally?
It depends on the ascent rate and the wind speed, of course, and you can predict. This site will do a prediction of where it's going to land, which it updates in real time. And of course, once it detects when it actually bursts, because it detected coming back down, it seems to be quite precise. Yes. Yeah, and I've tracked some before, and I've seen them go into the sea. Yeah, yeah. I don't think that was the intention.
Is there any way of doing a sort of predictions that you're, for example, launching a balloon when the winds might be in a particular direction where there is that risk?
Yes, you can do a pre-prediction. Yeah, I'm not sure what the website's called. Do you know, John?
No, there's a link to it on the hub.
Yeah, the place to look for getting started with this is an organisation called UKHAS, UK High Altitude Society. If you Google that, they've got everything. They've got wiki pages and everything.
Yes, and you can run a prediction. You tell it sort of what you're launching, how much it weighs, how big the balloon is,
Yeah.
and it's obvious. I don't know how. It must be tied into the Met Office or something.
Yeah.
But it gives
Yeah.
pretty good positions, and
It's good.
You see
good
some
model.
funny things, they'll do little loops to track.
Yes.
And it predicts
Well,
little
wind
loops.
speed and direction so on is very altitude dependent. So
Yes.
Yes, yeah, and this is why it needs to know, the specification of the load, how fast it's going to go up and how fast it's going to come down.
Is there, as it's going to get quite cold up there, I guess, have you
Yes.
tried any environmental testing at all?
It has been in the freezer.
If it keeps transmitting, it's worked. You notice it's all this particular one that's in a nice polystyrene
You
thing.
don't
So
want your clock to stop, do you?
you don't. No. The favourite batteries seem to be the Energizer lithiums. They've got a bit more power than your average alkaline battery, but the main thing is they don't suffer too much from low temperatures.
I think the specification actually states -50.
Yeah.
Mine's
So
50
presumably-
for the batteries.
C, yes.
Yes.
And
And I mean, it
presumably
shouldn't get
it'll
down to
go
minus
colder.
50. It shouldn't get down to minus 50 inside the box. It will be close to that outside the box. But,
What's
Well,
the
that's
date
why
of
we've
your,
got temperature sensors in it, so the first one will tell us something.
what's your planned date for your
before the end of July.
Okay.
When you gas the balloon up,
Yeah.
do you just gas it till it starts to lift?
No. Again, from this wonderful website called UKHAS, it's got for a given balloon and plus your payload, you need an extra amount of lift from the balloon to give yourself a decent ascent rate.
So if it starts going up, does it ever get to the point where it plateaus because it's not expanding big enough for the...
If you don't put enough excess gas in at ground level, that's a danger. And then it becomes a floater.
And then you never get it back.
You'll probably never get it back. Yes, yeah. There are people who do that on purpose. They usually use mylar balloons, but they've managed to get balloons that circumnavigated the world. So that's another project.
I didn't know if it's one of these things where once it starts, it exponentially gets better and better and better, and so you're guaranteed to burst it.
I think if you've started off with enough excess gas, it will do that. Yes.
What about aeroplane strikes?
Well, that's why you need to get BAA permission if you're going to do anything above a certain size.
2 metres is the critical diameter.
Yes.
For some reason.
For some reason, I don't know what. I mean, people let go of whole
Written down, 2
crowds
meters
of party
in any
balloons, so yeah.
dimension.
The payload is probably no more massive than a seagull, or
I think it's
Do you have any birds fight with them? I think
I've not heard of that.
red kites are quite good at feeding on things.
Yeah, they don't. If you manage to get past the red kite's ceiling, I think you can say.
Not a problem at 32k.
Are there any areas you're not allowed to launch?
Well, the advice from the people who know is try not to land in London. You know.
No, I mean launch sites.
Launch sites? Well, I'm not sure actually.
I mean with so many metres or miles of an airfield,
Um,
air corridors.
Any ideas, John?
I don't think there are actually, because it's it costs a small balloon or something. So there aren't, but common sense would dictate, we won't launch it from the end of one of the runways at White Wolf.
Yeah.
But
Obviously.
also the prediction, I think you need to run the prediction because you're really more interested in where things are going to come down because we want it back. So we'll sort of adjust perhaps the launch site.
We've got a couple of potential sites in Oxfordshire. Yeah. If we've got a north. Sorry?
High up places?
Ish, yeah.
It doesn't
You don't want it too windy when you
go.
launch it because at the ground level, but it's too difficult to balloon.
Will you come back and tell us how you got on?
Certainly will. With a picture, I hope, that we took eventually. The first one probably won't have a picture.
When Daniel Richmond gave us a talk on his high altitude balloon, he used a mobile phone. It's about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They had a special range somewhere near Cambridge, downwind of Stansted or something like that.
Right, yeah. There's a lot are sent off from near Cambridge. There's a lot of activity up there. Yes.
But he went all the way from here
Yeah.
there to launch.
Right. There are other people do use other radio. There's LoRa. Anyone know about that? Yeah. The little, you can buy little LoRa module. People, you get a lot more, a faster data rate with that. People send pictures back. SSDV. Yeah.
The RF module that you've got, I'm guessing is the FM one. The
That's the ones we're using are by Radiometrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing that kind of trick where you just waggle the input of that
Yes.
to get to get the
Basically,
RTT out of the FM
RTC
transmitter?
just waggle it
It's
between two.
genius. I heard about that last weekend just from a guy coincidentally speaking
Yeah.
to. It's a genius idea. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's all been done for you, so it's just a matter of copying what other people have done already. Yeah.